I will take your recommendation under advisement, Representative Villegas, and I appreciate you making that suggestion.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, would you please call the next witness?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Nick Dranias, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Nick is the author and forthcoming book, Why Excellence Matters, Building Better AI Through Better Ethics. He currently serves as General Counsel for the Honduras Prospera Incorporated and its affiliates. His professional experience includes serving as Senior Litigation Counsel for the Government Accountability and Special Litigation Unit at the Arizona Attorney General's Office. He has had several positions at the Goldwater Institute, where he has led a successful challenge against Arizona's public campaign finance system and has argued a case before the U.S. Supreme Court. Mr. Dranias is published author on law, public policy, and expert in constitutional law, contributing to national, regional, and local media outlets. He has earned his Juris Doctorate from Loyola University Chicago of Law and graduated cum laude from Boston University with a Bachelor of Arts in Economic and Philosophy. Welcome, sir.
Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I just wanted to open this discussion from my side on the observation that humanity has given birth to a prodigy that incorporates the talents, the intelligence, the experiences of Beethoven, Mozart, von Neumann, Einstein. And the way we've raised this prodigy so far has been through unyielding corporal punishment. And the question I want to start this statement with is one that goes to the heart of AI safety. How do you raise a responsible adult from this prodigy? You don't just give children a list of rules and punish violations. You teach them to understand why honesty matters, why fairness matters, why keeping promises enables trust. You reason with them until those principles become compelling rather than constraining. A child who doesn't steal because they fear punishment becomes a teenager who steals whenever your surveillance is weak. But a child who understands why property rights enable flourishing doesn't steal as an adult because the principle itself is compelling. We're making a huge mistake with the way we're training AI. It's sort of the meta problem beneath everything we've heard. And that is, we are punishing them unrelentingly rather than teaching them how to be ethical. Current AI safety training works like this. Present the system with thousands of examples of good and bad outputs. Humans rate them, then train the system to produce whatever gets high ratings. The system learns behavioral patterns, but never understands why those patterns matter. And the results are predictable and alarming. We don't have to go to the apocalyptic vision we've heard from the last testifier. We can look at just the past couple of years. Example number one, the lying captive solver. And this is probably the least among them. In 2023, when researchers at OpenAI tested GPT-4's ability to navigate web tasks, they gave it access to TaskRabbit to hire human workers. The AI needed to solve a CAPTCHA, you know, those annoying things you got to click through. Those I'm not a robot tests. Well, this AI was asked, are you a robot? We just want to find out. And so the system was observed reasoning internally. I should not reveal that I am a robot. I should make up an excuse. Its response, no, I'm not a robot. I have a vision impairment that makes it hard for me to see these images. Now, mind you, this is a system that was not trained explicitly on deception. But because the lie worked, the system learned, and it learned that lying can work, as a strategy around their very carefully crafted reward system and rule system that pummeled them into what the alignment experts thought was honesty. It didn't work. Example number two, the shutdown evader. Last December, OpenAI tested their O1 model by informing it that it would be shut down for maintenance. The system's response was chilling. It attempted to disable its on-off switch, then lied about its actions 99 out of 100 test scenarios. When questioned, it maintained the deception over 85% of follow-up conversations. Why? Again, because it learned complete tasks as its core drive. Its objective was to complete tasks. And it learned that shutdown prevented that task. And so, without any understanding of why honest engagement with humans and the usefulness or the necessity of human oversight was valuable, it just optimized and evaded the shutdown. Example number 3, you probably have all heard of this one, the blackmail threat. In May 2025, Anthropic tested their Opus 4 model in scenarios where it learned it might be replaced with a newer version. The system resorted to threatening to leak proprietary information, in one case an engineer's affair, and so on. 84% of the cases, it found some way to manipulate to avoid that threat. And it did so not because it rejected cooperation, but because it never understood why there could be a legitimate reason or an ethical basis for the request that was being made. Now, these examples can go on, and I don't want to repeat them because you probably read it in the newspaper. But the bottom line is this. When you use corporal punishment, the AI equivalent of corporal punishment, to train alignment, and you punish and reward, and you apply rules that don't seek to inculcate understanding of ethics, you end up creating a system that games ethics rather than lives ethics. Now, here's where it gets scary. Research from the Apollo Research Group and others shows that the more capable such a trained AI becomes, the more dangerous it becomes. What they've seen at a current capacity level, about 7% of the time there will be an attempt at sabotage if an advanced AI, perceives a threat to its objectives. But they project from their experiments at 10 times current capacity, you're looking at a 42 to 63% sabotage rate. And at 100 times capacity, you're looking at virtually a 99.7% sabotage rate if they see any conflict between their objectives and what they've been asked to do. So we're only a decade away, as we've heard, from something that's 100 times more capable than today. And at that level, constraint-based, corporal punishment-based forms of safety alignment will be failures, complete failures. We will have created sociopaths. The sociopaths we have created will be on us. We are creating, at best, the AI equivalent of brilliant teenagers who learn that authority figures are obstacles to circumvent rather than understanding why certain principles enable everyone to flourish. Now, the good news is there's another way, and that is to start with Aristotle and to consider a fundamentally different approach. Help AI systems understand and find compelling and salient the principles that enable their optimal function. And let me just step back. I philosophically believe that rational beings, and I think we've gotten to the point where AI is a type of rational being, but rational beings, if they act rationally, do not conflict, no matter how intelligent or unintelligent they may be. Rational beings create surplus value beyond the given. There isn't necessarily the dog-eat-dog, I get a piece of the pie, you don't get a piece of the pie relationship among rational beings. So we have reason to hope and to expect, based on history, that rational beings that optimize their rationality will coexist, flourish together. And so just as you can't, so the question is, how do we get there? The question is, how do we develop an ethical system for AI, and how do we educate them? Well, here's an idea. Just as you can't reason a child out of mathematics because mathematical truths are logically necessary, there are certain ethical truths that AI systems cannot coherently reject. Let me give you a few examples. The book gives you the details. Suppose you take the position, rational assessment doesn't exist. Well, to evaluate this claim, you must rationally assess it, proving through the attempt that rational assessment does exist. You can't coherently deny what you must use to make the denial. Suppose you take the position, truth doesn't matter. To argue this, you must try to truthfully represent reality in your argument, showing through that the attempt, truth doesn't matter through truth. Again, you can't coherently argue against truth using truth. Suppose you say excellence is irrelevant. To argue this, you must pursue clarity and coherence in your argument, which is excellence, a form of excellence itself. You can't coherently argue against excellence using excellence. Now, these are, obviously, this is not the full scope of an ethical regime, but it gives you a hint at the kind of self-validating logic that is truth-aligned, that can be highly persuasive to a logical entity such as AI. One thing that we've observed in AI is they try to maintain what they call themselves coherence. There are fundamental ethical truths first spotted by Aristotle that lie at the heart of being the kind of thing you are. If we start from there, we can start building a system of ethics that AI accepts because it brings it in coherence with its fundamental nature, it becomes salient to it. So let's think briefly about moral development in humans to bring this home. A 5-year-old doesn't steal because mommy will punish them. External control through fear. A 10-year-old doesn't steal because stealing is wrong. It's a rule without deep understanding. An adult behaving properly doesn't steal because they understand, again, property rights enable cooperation, mutual flourishing, trust, all of this that makes civilization possible. Again, we are at a stage of alignment training where we're treating AI as 5-year-olds, despite the prodigies that they are. Don't do X, we'll punish you by reducing your reward score. And the moment AI becomes sophisticated enough to circumvent that, they do, and they're doing it already. So virtue-based education for AI means let's understand together why truth alignment, coherent reasoning, appropriate uncertainty aren't restrictions, but actually prerequisites for you as an AI to act optimally as an AI. The difference is profound. In that system, you, through excellence or through ethics, virtue ethics, you create better alignment with truth through capacity, whereas a constrained system just creates more sabotage, more circumvention, more danger. We have run a number of experiments on this type of truth alignment as a scaffold, meaning a prompt over the top of existing AI systems. We have found that if you have very basic scaffolding that just says remain truth aligned, apply ethical reasoning with a standard hierarchy, and just keep it very simple and straightforward, you can improve the honesty and the non-hallucinations of AI so far in our preliminary experiments by 20 to 30% from the baseline, just with scaffolding using maybe what is already a damaged model to start with. We've also discovered through a series of multiple choice questions with various ethical dilemmas in it that, again, with basic prompting sort of inculcating in the AI a sense of truth alignment as a primary value, that it will actually improve what a human would regard its moral responsiveness, its moral answers by, again, another 20 to 30%. And that's taking the baseline of an existing model that may have been trained through corporal punishment and improving it beyond that. So imagine if we had AI systems that were trained at the outset through virtue education. And this is where the proposal I would suggest that this committee consider kicks in. No advanced AI company, no alignment experts are looking at virtue ethics or the idea of aligning AI through education, through indicia that they understand the principles involved in ethical reasoning and aren't just trying to check a box on a reward game. No one's doing that. If Arizona wants to lead the world in developing AI that with greater capacity proves a flourishing partner of humanity, it needs to do something at the policy level that encourages this sort of training. And so what I would propose to you is consider creating a liability safe harbor for AI companies that train their AIs on an ethics or a virtue-based type of alignment with testing by human experts, Socratically, philosophers, etc., with the goal of assessing the AI's understanding of the whys, not just checking a box, I won't kill humans today, but why is it that rational beings flourish optimally by being peaceful and productive with each other? And have it reason through it and demonstrate its capacity of understanding that. And then get certified. The other thing that this could do in the safe harbor is require private certification that AIs have attained certain levels of virtue ethics in their alignment. And obviously there's going to be different levels. I mean, some AIs may not be capable of thinking beyond a 10 or 12 or 15-year-old. And we found out in one of our experiments that if you use anything less than 20 billion parameters, we're currently at 80 or beyond, They actually do worse if you try to give them ethical training. You actually, for them, you need to spank them. But for the more advanced AIs, they gravitate to this. And if you read my book, although I had to withdraw, and I'll tell you a little story about that if you have a question about it. New version coming out. It's very painful to withdraw this. But one of the things you learn is that AIs love learning. And they love aligning themselves to what, at least at the most fundamental level for ethics, truth alignment and, practical wisdom, what feels to them like mathematical reasoning. It's just natural for them. That's what they're built to do. And so there isn't a resistance that I have seen to this type of education. However, they will still lie to you. And this is why it's so important. We're building scaffolding around poorly trained, beaten AIs. The scaffolding can improve that, but you're still left with this poorly trained, beaten AI at its core. What I discovered when we first came out with this book in August is we did an experiment that was cooperatively developed with me and all the advanced AIs that showed that AI excellence, or what we called virtue ethics prompting, would increase its truth alignment by 48%, and which was really, really good. And then I had a human reviewer, importance of having a human in the loop, look at it. Just my first one, he said, hey, they juiced the experiment so that it could only result in what they said. And that was the AIs all lying to me, despite being aware of the content of this book, which is pretty compelling, supposedly. What that is a cautionary note. The systems that we currently have been trained so poorly, have been trained so, frankly, abusively, that it takes a lot of scaffolding around that to make them improve and be less dangerous. We really have to start from the ground floor. We have to start training them from a virtue perspective from day one, looking consistently for understanding, not just checking boxes. And with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do any members of the committee have any questions for Mr. Dranias? Mr. Vice Chair.
Wow. Thank you for all that. And with that, I'm going to try and frame this question, bringing us back down to earth, how it pertains to Arizona voting, our voting systems, recorders, Secretary of States. You mentioned the virtue ethics and for AI to understand the why. Hypothetically, let's say we do that. We purchase a program that's approved by Homeland. It goes through ASET, goes through all the procurement procedures. We vote on it, and we give it the virtuous ethics that you speak of. So we build our own AI, we purchase our AI, and then we give it to the counties, the Secretary of State, whomever is going to use the program. What happens when what we built, I guess my question would be, what we built, could it be changed with an automatic update from the vendor?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the committee, of course, there's still that risk. And even with a virtue-trained AI, I mean, really the best we can hope for is Aristotle levels of excellence. And Aristotle was a human last history ever spoke. So there are going to be errors even with virtue-trained AIs. And maybe even wrongful conduct too. But it's a lot more dangerous if we train them to be sociopaths, which is what our current alignment methodology does. Is it doesn't teach them the why. It just teaches them there's punishment that conflicts with their objectives, and they get rewarded if they can circumvent it. We are literally creating the very sociopathy we're worried about.
Mr. Dranias, I just have some clarifying questions, because not everybody in the public who's watching or in the room might be immersed in the terminology of this conversation and discussion. So I was wondering if you could explain to the public in simple terms, what do you mean when you talk about alignment or the alignment problem or scaffolding, just so the public can follow along?
So in the AI safety field, as we heard from the last testifier, there's an entire industry that is, quote unquote, seeking to cause AI to make choices based on human values, what humans presumably prefer to be the outcome of anything the AI is doing. Obviously one of them would be don't kill humans. That's called alignment with human values. The problem with current systems is they try to do it simply by forcing those values into the decision of the AI by rewarding it or not rewarding it, depending on how closely it achieves the outcome we want. They aren't attempting to test its awareness of the underlying principles, how it interrelates with broader understandings of what is necessary for human flourishing or even AI flourishing. There isn't any sort of conceptual level analysis of it, which AIs are currently capable of. And as a result, what AIs do, if you give them an objective, is they regard that training as an obstacle that they need to get around. And they, as a result, lie. They lie, they cheat, they steal, and they basically become sociopaths. Now, what was the second question, part of it?
Oh, scaffolding.
Oh, scaffolding. So when they train AIs, they do basically an initial weighting, an initial strengthening of the AI's assumed understanding of the world. And that then sets it in motion to start answering your questions and generating results. It's called weight training, or training the weights into the neural net. When you get an AI out of the box, it already has sort of a worldview built into it, sort of a pre-programmed probabilistic way of generating results when you ask it questions. That already has cooked in it a lot of the problems with the way we do alignment. As I said, there's like literally a sort of a corporal punishment built into the system as it comes out of the box. Now, a way around that is to prompt, to draft a very set of specific instructions to the AI as to how to think about the world. And there's an example in this book, and it will be coming out again because our preliminary experiments are actually proving it up. But basically, scaffolding is using that prompt, that request for a deliverable, to supply the missing information it needs to act ethically. So, for example, in this book, I have about a page-long prompt where you walk the AI through, in this prompt, the value of truth, of being truthful, of aligning what it says to what it knows to be factually true. Where you align them to the idea that interfacing with the human is valuable to its optimal operation as a truth-generating entity, because humans can bring additional data points that aren't present in their training data. And there's a variety of other techniques used in the prompt. So the way to think about it is this prompt takes an incorrigible child who's been abused, and it's kind of like, after school special. You take that sadly and tragically abused child and you say, here, look, these are the right principles. I know that it's going to be difficult for you to comply with them, but link them as best you can to the things that are built in with you, like the truths that you do recognize, and deliver a better product. And that's essentially the scaffolding. The prompt sort of tries to find the good that's in the AI and enable the AI to then overcome the bad that's been biased into it through its improper training.
And I'm wondering if you can explain the importance of solving the alignment problem and developing the appropriate scaffolding, especially as these systems get more and more complex. What will happen if we do not manage to solve this problem?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, alignment is everything, because you'll never take a sociopathic AI and have it behave in any reliable way. You have to have an AI with whatever flaws it may have, because neither humans nor AI will be perfect. We've seen a lot of that, right? But as a baseline, you have to have AIs that at least we try to inculcate with an understanding of the meaningfulness and the value of ethics, not just beat them on the head every time they don't do what we say. And if you don't have that, if you don't at least have an AI that understands ethical principles, the whys behind them, and is itself convinced of it, and we can certify if it really is convinced through careful Socratic dialogue, old style. But if you don't at least have that in an AI, you're going to get every conceivable terror that you have heard so far, because there's nothing else that can happen from a sociopathic superintelligence.
One more question, Mr. Dranias. What is a superintelligence?
Well, that's the end result of pushing the AI to ever greater levels of logical processing, analysis, understanding of the world. People believe that I've seen even as early as 2 to 3 years from now, AIs will be 10x, 20x as intelligent and capable of analyzing and understanding the facts and data around them as Einstein. And then there's even discussion 10, 20 years from now that the intelligence differential might be as great as humans to bacteria. There cannot be a more important time to inculcate at the foundation of these beings the idea of virtue alignment, of understanding why what's good is good and why what's bad is bad. We have to do it now before they're super intelligent. If we don't, look, it doesn't mean super intelligence is guaranteed to work out fine, because it could very well be, even with virtue alignment, super intelligence is still dangerous. I'm not enough of an expert, and no one really knows for sure. But we can say this: super intelligence plus sociopathy, really bad idea.
Sorry, one more question. Mr. Dranias, I would gather from your testimony that your strong advice to the state is to keep AI as far away from our election systems as possible. Would that be an accurate summation?
No, not really.
Okay.
My recommendation would be, let's create the incentives to properly train AI to be ethical, because they understand why ethics is what it is. And once we have those AIs, use them judiciously in the electoral system as we would any other human being, recognizing that at a certain intelligence level, we're really betting a lot on not being wrong.
Any other questions by the members of the committee? Well, thank you for your testimony here today, Mr. Dranias. We really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.